and welcome to today's panel on emerging technology and generative AI, opportunities for teaching and research. My name is Arihant, and I'll be your anchor for today's session. Moderating today's session, we have an esteemed academic and professional among us, Dr. Eugene Ao Changshi. Dr. Ao is the Associate Professor and Head of Research and Postgraduate Studies at UCSI University in Malaysia, which is also our knowledge partner. His research focuses on marketing, artificial intelligence, advertising, and their applications in various domains. Welcome. Joining him on the panel today are several esteemed academics. Dr. Min Chung teaches Operations Management and Business Analytics at the Queen's University of Belfast. He formerly worked as a research fellow at Nottingham University and a lecturer and senior lecturer in Operations Management at East Anglia. Welcome. Dr. Sujit Sharma is a professor in the Decision Sciences and Information Systems area at the IIM Nagpur. Dr. Sharma has taught in India, Oman, and Bahrain for over 23 years, giving him expertise working with pupils of many cultures and ethnicities. Welcome. And Dr. Ashwini Kumar is a professor of Business Analytics and Information Systems at the Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. He has over 17 years of academic work experience and has even created new courses in partnership with Microsoft and SAS. Welcome. Finally, Dr. Gary Than Wei Han is a senior professor at the Graduate Business School of UCSI University, Malaysia. He has been acknowledged among the world's 10 most productive and influential authors in mobile commerce, social commerce, and mobile payments from 2017 to 2022. He is one of the world's top 2% scientists, according to a report published by the Stanford University in 2022. I'm sure we're all in for an engrossing discussion today. The format will be as follows. Our panelists will discuss on the topic for about an hour, after which the floor will be open for questions from the audience. I would now like to hand over the dais to Professor Ao to moderate the session.
All right, so a very good afternoon to everyone. Yeah, thanks for coming to our panel discussion on emerging technologies and generative AI, opportunities for teaching and research. Eugene, your moderator for today's enlightening conversations. So I believe all of you would agree with me that we have come to a very important times where in the evolutions of technology and educations. So we all know that generative AI or other sort of cutting-edge technologies, when we talk about things like augmented reality, virtual realities, they not only have reshaped our entire world, but more importantly, we are seeing a very profound impact of these kind of technologies in our educations, especially in the aspect of teaching and research. So, I'm very glad that today we can have these panel discussions, to talk about how all these AI and technologies, can change, or what are the changes or challenges that they have brought to our teaching aspect and our research aspect. And also, in today's discussions, we'll be touching on what I believe all of you will be interested, to know about the articles, and also societal implications of these technologies would have on us. So, in sum, the goal of today's discussions is not just only to showcase the current state of applications of these AI and other sort of technologies, in education, but more importantly, what I want to emphasize is that we are actually forecasting. We need to focus, and we need to chart the path forwards for our future generations as an educator. So, without further ado, let's start our discussion today. So, my first questions, to the panel is that, what is your reflections of generative AI in particular, on teaching? I believe all of us have been teaching, for some times. So, what do you think, or what do you think are the differences, when before the emergence of generative AI and after that? So I would love to invite from Min to share with us on opinion.
Okay, I will start, and I believe the other people will talking about how you mark the assignment, because the key challenge we face now is that when the student turn in an assignment, especially an essay, we are not sure whether it's written by the student or written by the generative AI. I think other people will share their views on that. But what I want to share today is actually a discussion with my colleagues back in Queens. Before I fly to India, we have a group meeting, and in the meeting, we actually discussed how we can integrate generative AI in our colloquiums. We have a particular business analytics program, and in our program, we have several modules we teach programming language like the R and the Python to students. But now, when we have the generative AI, we're thinking about how we can change in the curriculum, which means what we taught to the student. In the past, it's just teaching students how to write a program in the Python, but now we feel that this might not be appropriate. Now, what's important is not you understand how to programming in Python, but how to use the right prompt. So I believe you all heard about the term of prompt engineering. It's actually a new concept. So the idea is that we don't need to teach students how to actually writing Python programming, but we taught the student to using the generative AI to do the Python programming. So this means a kind of fundamental change in how we design the business analytical modules. In the past, it's very simple. You find a textbook and using download RStudio and find some programming and just teach students and give them some data, then they can do their homework. It seems that this might not be the right way in the future. The appearance of the generative AI tools allow everybody can using different programming languages. And what they need to know is to ask the right questions. That leads to the key skills. It's not programming, but prompt engineering. We do not know whether this is a fact or it's a trend, but that's something we believe that might generative AI could change our teaching practice. And we already decided, we tried several kind of, in 2 modules in the next semester, we will include this kind of prompt engineering in the teaching. We will see what happens. Okay, that's all from me.
No.
Yeah. So to continue this conversation, how I use generative AI, like, these days we cannot say that you don't use AI in classroom even. See, outside classroom they are using AI, right? If they are submitting assignment, most of the time students use generative AI to write answer to questions. So what I do, I'll be sharing my experience. I'm teaching blockchain course to one of my program. So there, I asked one question, like, can you compare, how blockchain is different from other IT technologies? And then I asked them, get the answer of this question from CHGPT. So they got answer using CHGPT. Then I discussed the outcomes. So what kind of responses we are getting from CHGPT. And then we take this discussion forward. So this is one of the simple use cases what I do in my class. So we have to use ChatGPT, right time to get into it, and use more and more and make classrooms more engaging.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all of you. First of all, I would like to start with thanking MICA and the host for being such gracious hosts, and I think hosting a very well-organized conference. And it's really a school of ideas. I really realized that. So it's given me a lot of ideas. So apart from giving some ideas, I think I'm carrying more ideas back, and I think that's what a conference should do. Coming to the topic of the day, generative AI, I believe, is a huge game changer in the way education is delivered, or should be delivered, and the way we learn. So I believe generative AI is going to have a huge impact on the way we work and the way we live, so, and future of work in general. So if it's going to impact future of work, obviously it should impact the way we learn and study. So coming to the way I feel it is impacting, as professors have already pointed out some examples that they have used in the classroom, and it's more about prompt engineering now. And I see a lot of, whenever and that's the reason I say it's a game changer. Because irrespective of the work, irrespective of the industry that you work in, irrespective of the role, and I'm going beyond business here, I'm talking about society in general, or business management and society in general. So irrespective of the role, I think the most important thing that a person needs to learn is problem formulation. I think somewhere along the way, the education system has been designed in a way, somewhat probably deliberately, and I'm using the word probably actually diplomatically. Otherwise, we all know it was done intentionally. It was not the way our older systems or ancient, coming from this land, our systems were designed. So we have to move away from that kind of learning to coming back to learner-centered learning. We all realize the importance of participant-centered learning or learner-centered learning. And we have been talking about metaverse, immersive technologies, and so on, for how it can enhance or transform customer experience. So immersive technologies specifically, which is also not one specific technology, it's a group of technologies. AI along with those immersive technologies. So I would like to focus on how, since it's going to impact customer experience and the way we live and work so widely, how should we learn? So our focus should be on how it can enhance learner experience. And so for that, we have to first move away from treating students as customers. So that's how learner experience will be different from customer experience. It will be a bit of both. Of course, we have to provide that. Think of them partly as customers also in the value that we provide, but ultimately we have to at least lead the way. So that's question number one. So now I would like to just point out two things very briefly so that I can start the conversation. Is why do I say it's a game changer? So it helps you converse. So when you learn or when you work, it's all about conversations. Human-to-human conversations is something that comes naturally to us. Unfortunately, we were talking about it yesterday in a very enlightening panel discussion as well on how human-to-human conversations are also not coming naturally to the next generation, which is very unfortunate. But human-to-machine conversations were not coming naturally to us. It was like all about leaving to the technology guys, Python programming, this, AI, machine learning, and so on. But when you talk about generative AI, and as Professor pointed about prompt engineering, that comes naturally to us. That's just about asking the right questions through prompts. And that comes naturally to, or that even that comes more naturally to a child. And we are through the education system, somehow along the way they stop asking questions. So it's all about asking the right questions, which helps you formulate the problem correctly. Then it's about going to sub-problems, generating ideas of solutions, coming up to the right idea and solution, and then presenting the idea. These are the 5 steps that generative AI can help you do, which means it can augment, not automate, which is you're worried about. AI will automate a lot of roles, unproductive roles, but generative AI can help augment what humans do best. So it will, especially for creative people, and we're sitting in MICA campus, it's really going to help the kind of work businesses in the creative field. So that's one thing. Second is on the transformation. I think let the discussion proceed later. But the transformation of learning and education will happen not just because of generative AI, but that's the theme of the conference. So transformation or disruption by itself, and that's how it's defined, and especially digital transformation. Transformation does not necessarily mean digital transformation, but it cannot have, we cannot think of it without technologies. So when we say transformation or disruption, especially transformation, the transformation by its very definition does not happen because of one individual technology. it's a combination of combinatorial exponential technologies. So it's AI, generative AI, along with blockchain, AR, VR, and so on, that has the potential to not just enhance learning experience, but completely transform education. Yes, there are obviously issues and challenges there. It can help you take off the digital divide as well. But there are issues and challenges there. But individually, of course, we understand how immersive technologies and generative AI can help. But maybe we'll come to that conversation later. Otherwise, I keep speaking.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Gary. You know, when CHGPT came into the market a few years back, I have this ethical issue. You know, like, should I use it or should I not use it? Okay, especially in terms of my research, in terms of my teaching and so on. Because what I felt that as an educator, you know, you should write, for example, you know, everything shows originality through your own work. But if someone is writing on your behalf, you know, then it's not real, you know, it's not something original. And because of that, I had this issue, I think about a year, that I tried not to use it. Okay, but the issue here is, I began to realize that my students are using it. Now, this is a big issue. My students are using it, and if I do not know about it, that is far more worse, because they are going to outdo me, you know, using some corners, you know, and doing something which I may not know. So I started to spend time to really understand what this ChatGPT was all about, GAI. And I began to realize that, my gosh, this is really something that is going to transform the education, you know, industry. You know, so I told myself, I'm wrong. You know, I do not encourage people to use it, you know, for research and so on entirely. But if it comes in terms of teaching, I tell you, ChatGPT, for example, GAI is wonderful. All right, I give an example. All right, in my class, I know my students are using it. So rather than to tell them that, okay, don't use it, I tell them, why not? Let's say we do a research paper. Okay, you want to know about a certain theory. Why don't, before you start writing, okay, before you start looking at those journals, why don't you just start and ask ChatGPT, can you tell me about this theory? Have some basic understanding. Or even a certain theory, for example, you know, they have like history, you know, the future. Why not just ask and get some idea? Have a clarity so that you can structure, you know, your work and so on. And sometimes, for me, when I want to teach a certain subject, like for example in marketing, I need to give real concrete examples. I ask ChatGPT, for example, for an example. Okay, and I see that, okay, it looks good. Then I start to do my research to verify, you know, whether this information is actually true or not. So from my angle, in terms of teaching, GAI has indeed helped me, okay, in terms of this. And I would say that, I'm not saying that, you know, you should embrace it entirely, but you should, you know, at least use it, and you need to verify again, always verify this information, because I also realize that some information that they provide are not entirely accurate. Now, coming to Malaysia, right? So far, I'm not too sure about other countries, yeah, in UK or in China, but in Malaysia, so far, I've yet to see a policy from the government that is entirely about the usage of GAI. All right. So in my universities, we do not have such policy as well. I'm not too sure about how the scenario is in India. I think in Malaysia, most universities, they are a bit conservative, or I would say more traditional. You know, they do not want to start to put up something, and then later, when the government make an announcement of a policy or circular, and that contradicts whatever that they have written. So they are like, wait and see. The Malaysian government, on the other hand, probably is also waiting for some of these well-known publishers like Elsevier, you know, Emerald, to come up with a policy. And from a publisher viewpoint, because I represent Emerald as well as their ambassador, I asked them, you know, in our meeting, like, when are you guys coming out with this policy, yeah, on AI, you know? They say, very soon, very soon. and that was last year. So the thing here is, I'm waiting, to see what is the kind of do's and don'ts or those kind of policies, publishers will write, and I think from there onwards, then we'll see, governments, universities, coming up with a more concrete kind of policies on AI usage in education. Yeah, but from what I want to summarize, from what I want to say is, I feel that AI is something that we have to embrace. Okay, like what I said, I didn't like it at first, but I felt that it is important to know and to embrace it in a way. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the insightful inputs from all the panels. So my subsequent question is that based on what the panels have said, right? They have been asking students to use ChatGPT in many different ways. When it comes to learning, right? For example, Prof. Chang also mentions that perhaps we are already reaching a stage where we are not going to teach students about programming, but rather about prompt engineering, asking them, So in that kind of scenario, so what I'd like to ask is that, how do you envision, the role of us being a teacher, right? So how would you anticipate, our role would be changed, in that way?
We are still the teacher, but we're just teaching the right thing, because technology is changing. In the past, we're teaching students C#, and then we teach SPSS, and then we got the new tools.
Yeah, so I think as a teacher, the most important thing is to teach the student the right skills. Along with the development of technology, we also need to develop. Now, this generative AI is the new tool, and maybe the right tool. So we have to learn and teach students how to use the right tools. So I don't think our role of teacher has ever changed. We're still teaching the skills. Just we need to adapt with the changing technology. That's all.
Yes, so again, as my colleague has already mentioned, we are focusing broadly on teaching skills. So ChatGPT is going to be a new skill which we are going to use, and broadly idea here is how to engage students with this new technology. As we see, there is a lot of distraction these days because of so many technologies around. Now the attention span is going down. Right? You ask students to sit in class for 90 minutes, and you will observe that there are distractions. Right? So this is the right time. We need to revisit the way we have been teaching. So we need to make a shift in the way of teaching, and this is a good tool, right tool, to engage with students and take things forward.
Thank you. I think it's a mix of, my opinion is a mix of what both the professors said about, obviously when it's, we're talking about looking at the kind of transformation and disruption that we're seeing has never been seen before in human history. And what we're seeing is just a tip of the iceberg. We're going to see a tsunami of exponentially more powerful technologies coming in, and that's what we've been discussing over the last 2 days. And as I said, combinatorially, in combination, they have a huge transformative disruptive effect. Individually, they may be it's a huge enhancer. So, but when I talk about as a student or as a participant in a learning experience, or as a teacher or an educator, I believe it actually helps us go back to what our role was and probably what we were doing 20 years back. If I look back, my career as an educator of 25 years back, what I have seen probably my best school teachers or university teachers doing is focusing on learning, which is understanding the concept and understanding how to formulate the problem, and that's what I focused on the initial part also. I have a feeling that over a period of time, because of technologies and the importance of the skills and knowledge in these technologies has grown, there has been, even though I come from technology, an undue importance. Maybe it was required because that's how the fields evolved, that's how technologies evolved, on providing just skills and knowledge. So what happens is, over a period of time, these skills become redundant. As we have been discussing, students have based their careers and their lives on learning Python and analytics and all that, and suddenly we say it's redundant. You have to just learn prompt engineering. And the student says, oh, that was very intuitive. I didn't even need to go through an analytics program or some Python for that. And in fact, there is a Harvard article which talks about prompt engineering and how you go through problem, the first part that I talked about. There is another Harvard article which says prompt engineering is also not the future, because in very recent future, there will be technologies which will help you do prompt engineering also. But what is irreplaceable is what you have been doing as a child. So go back to being a child, go back to being a parent that we always should have been in teaching a child, which means keep asking questions. In fact, the most beautiful role that I heard of from a very unlikely person. I was listening to an interview recently, with Jay Shetty, I think, of Trevor Noah, a comedian, and he apparently has a role of a chief questions officer at Microsoft. And if Trevor Noah can be chief questions officer at Microsoft and a successful one at that, you can imagine that. So as a technology person, I say this, with whatever understanding I have of technology, that apart from just using, so we have to move away from being threatened by technology. We are way beyond that now, hopefully, in terms of that we cannot understand it. So I think everyone has started understanding it. With generative AI, it will become even more easier. To just getting skills and knowledge with it and using for that, but rather using technology to augment your role and do what you do best. So as a teacher, do what you do best. As a student, do what you do best, which is learn. So, and if you're a creative person, if you're a storyteller, if you're a journalist, you use generative AI to become a better journalist, and let generative AI take away your more unproductive part about putting the grammar together, presenting the story idea together. Not that you are the best person for that, of course, but giving you more ideas. So obviously human mind will be constrained by the number of ideas that can be generated. I've used generative AI recently, coincidentally, in just my Monday class where I used generative AI to teach product management. And talking about learning and teaching, what was very interesting, and there were very interesting observations that came up. So one was focusing on learning, of course. But what was useful about generative AI, because like 20 years back I could not do that if I teach product management, is that every student comes up with its own set of prior capabilities, with its own set of learning outcomes that he or she expects from that class. I have certain learning outcomes as a teacher, but then student may have different ideally, and that's what learning is all about. So somebody is aspiring to be a product manager from a technology point of view. Somebody is a marketing person, wants to understand product management. Somebody is a strategy person who wants to get into consulting, wants to understand product management. Somebody does not want to do anything one of this, but wants to use generative AI and understand how generative AI can help you in anything that you do. So forget about business or work. Once you start using generative AI and look at the wonders it can do with the stories and ideas it creates, it helps you look at your life also differently. So this is what I should have been doing with my life. We forget to look at formulating the right problem. It typically happens at the end of your career that we spend the entire life on a career, and this is how probably should have done something else, and that's what formulating the problem is all about. So I think so what it helped me do is what I think Professor Vijay was just here, was talking about hyper-personalization. Yesterday he was talking about hyper-personalization from a customer point of view. In academics it's important to give citation, so I'm just giving that. And since I'm talking about referring to a big shot academician, hopefully you listen to me more intently. So when you talk about hyper-personalization, I've used partly in that class, and I could see how it can, if used in a right manner, because it's dangerous also, if not used in a right manner. I looked at the questions yesterday, and we'll probably come to that also in a minute. Is everyone look, and we had the discussion outside the class, and actually I went beyond the learning outcomes I had for the class. So everyone took away something that was more relevant for the kind of job role or the position that he or she was preparing for. And everyone took away a little bit of product management and generative AI, which is what I want. But one thing which was common is that everyone took away something which, because it was the first time I realized that everyone understood the power of generative AI and how it should be used, and in anything and everything that we do, and how it will really transform future of work. So I think that's how I look at learning experience. So it's actually going back to the drawing board, something that we always used to do, always should be doing, and that's how. But it got lost along the way in the last few decades or even more, and we have to go back to that. So that's my problem.
Okay, thank you. Coming back to what Dr. Eugene was asking, I remember many years back, one of my students, she did a thesis topic using a very well-known research framework, and is known as SOR. Okay, I think probably some of you have heard of that framework before. Now, the interesting part was, throughout the whole thesis, she knows this is SOR, but when I asked the most basic question, who created SOR? She said, you. I said, it's not me. But she said, you have a paper on SOR, so it should be you. I said, no. Then I asked her, I told her to do this. Can you please, spend the next few hours, go and search for the answer. Just ask Google. Yeah, Google knows everything. And she came back, you know what she told me? I still cannot find the answer. Now, the key thing when she told me that she can't find the answer sparked my thought. Why she can't find the answer? Because Google have everything. So basically it's how you ask. The kind of question that you ask. To me, in order to survive in today's society, is really about problem solving. Okay, a university should be a place to teach a student on how to solve a problem. Okay, and in order to solve a problem, the first thing is you need to learn to ask the right question. Having the right questions will lead to the clarity of your thoughts on your process, and everything will eventually fall seen. Now, coming back to AI, GAI, the same thing goes today. Eugene asked, how do you see the role of an educator, with this AI thing? To me, it is the same. As an educator, whether you want to encourage students to use AI, you must teach them to ask, to use, and to ask the right kind of questions. Because if they do not know how to ask the right question, eventually AI, GAI will never be useful as well. So to me, an educator in the past years and today is the same. We are a facilitator. Okay, facilitator in terms of to guide the students to learn how to ask the right questions and to teach them. Solving is something that is going to be a natural thing for the rest of your life, whether you're in education or whether you're in other industries. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so coming so far, right? We have gathered a lot of inputs about the possible impacts, and of these AIs or other kind of technologies on our teachings, with the way how we teach, our role as teachers. So moving forwards, let us have some discussions on, thinking about how AI or also these new emerging technologies are going to change, the way how we do research as researchers. So I would like to seek, some your own reflections or your thoughts on this matter.
Okay, from my point of view and my own experience, I will use this kind of technology in two areas. The first area is writing. Because Gary just mentioned, when he wants to teach something, he asked ChatGPT for example. That's actually, I also use it in similar way, but in writing papers, that when you write a paper, they always ask practical motivations. When you frame your practical motivations, sometimes you need example, you need fact, you need numbers. I think when you're looking for the fact and numbers, ChatGPT is the right sort for you to get these fact and numbers. And another way why I use that is do some proofreading. So when you write a paper and send this to ChatGPT, and he can, actually I don't use ChatGPT, I use Grammarly. I think Grammarly is better. Yeah, I use this kind of AI tools to help me actually writing the paper. This is one aspect. Another aspect is I believe this new AI technology is actually allow us to do the research in the past we can't. It allow us to collect more data and design more innovative research. Let me give you an example. One of my friends, they created a lab. In this lab, they do very simple things. They're using the facial recognition to read people's face. And I don't know whether you see the movie Lie to Me. It's a TV series talking about a guy who's very famous. He can read people's micro expression and make a good fortune. Now, actually, technology allows us to do that. When we use that technology, we can actually solve a very big important in survey, because I do a lot of survey. The big challenge in survey is self-reporting, because that we can't be sure that what our respondent telling us is the truth. But now, with this technology, we can actually read the respondent's expression. Then we can know his emotion. Then this will give us a more objective understanding of the respondent's response, whether he like it or don't like it. Okay, we have this technology. Actually, from the technology point of view, this is very mature, and we try to design some behavior experiment based on that. It is something related to trust, but we're still working on that. This is just one way we using the AI to actually collect data in the past we can't. Another way is that we try to write a program. We use this program to capture all the policy worldwide. So that there's new policy related to trading and the logistics, it will send us an alarm. And then the generative AI can write a summary about all new policy happens in the world. So that this allows us to understand what's happening there, and then with some of this input of the top policies, we can design some nature experiment. But in the past, without this technology, we cannot do that. So basically, I believe this new technology allow us to do, at least allow me to do research in two ways. First, in the writing. The second is to collect more data, which I can't. Okay, that's all from me.
Yes, as we have noticed that ChatGPT is a very powerful tool for teaching purposes. This is even more powerful for research. I would like to share two examples. One is, like, as we are not, English native, speaker or writer, so we write, in our own, we think in many times in our own language, and then we put in English, right? So ChatGPT is going to help us to put your article, your research paper, as good as you are writing as a native writer. So that is one good thing we see or we learn. We can use ChatGPT, so it can take your writing to different level. This is one use case, one application I see. Another use is, like sometimes we are ready with a research paper, and research paper is of, let's say, 10,000 words or 12,000 words, and then you are going to submit it to a journal where requirement is of 8,000 words. So you have to reduce the number of count. So there we used to face challenge that you need to read that paper multiple times and cut down, some sentences, some words here and there to reduce it from 10,000 to 8,000 or 13,000 to 8,000. Now using ChatGPT we can reduce this count comfortably, but here there is a catch. After reducing this word count, you need to read your draft carefully, because sometimes it can have some different meaning what you might have thought of. Right? So that is one downside to it. And these are two use cases. Another, sometimes you need to change references from one style to another style. So you can make this change in a few seconds. So that is another good use case of ChatGPT in research.
Thank you to both the professors. I would, frankly, this time I do not have anything to add on to what they have said on the publication process, because if you go and check up our respective profiles and websites, all others on the panel are much more extensive researchers and publishers as well as editors than what I am. So I will not comment on obviously the policies and but as a obviously a researcher, what Sujit has said is very, very important. Something that now we don't have to worry about is the presentation of at least research ideas, which was a big hindrance in the publication process. In fact, I'll go beyond it and say it's not just about improving your English or grammar. We're talking about multilingual. I don't know whether you've heard. So we talk about ChatGPT all the time. IIT Bombay, along with I think Reliance, if I'm not wrong, are supported by that, and a lot of professors from other IITs and some other collaborators are in the process of developing BharatGPT, which is a multilingual, multimodal model. So, which has a huge implication for research, and when I say research, I'm not just talking about from an academic publication process point of view. So everything is research. So when you're living in this transformative, disruptive world, organizations are also, typically if you look at companies, they are at the forefront of research. Talk about OpenAI or Google and all these organizations. Obviously, industry is also at the forefront of research. So whether you're in industry or academics or anywhere else, research is part of our jobs. In fact, if everybody thinks and works like a researcher, and that's what I like the word, that it will has a huge impact more on research than teaching. As Professor Sujit said, I like the sentence, because if everybody, it helps you become a better researcher, then it makes the job of a teacher much more easier. If we have 50 people who are thinking like researchers sitting in the class, then it takes the class, the shared learning to a completely different level. Then you use generative AI only for personalizing it, assignments before the class, during the class, after the class. So again, one thing that I will comment on, not just generative AI, but immersive technologies in general, augmented reality, virtual reality, and I do not want to get into the details, but there is a distinct line which blurs. There is, on one extreme, there is virtual reality, and then virtual reality to augmented reality, mixed reality, metaverse. They are all slightly different concepts, but typically put them into immersive. So there, you are able to obviously visualize. So since research, the first step should be problem formulation, and that's a limitation I've seen, whether it is the students of these schools, whether it is students in secondary and primary schools, and you have been a student yourself, and my wife happens to be a school teacher, so primary school teacher, and I discussed that with her also a lot. And thirdly, executive education participants, so business school, or even researchers. One limitation I have observed, there are differences among skills and knowledge, ability to and the desire to acquire that skills or knowledge, presentation of ideas, communication, providing solutions, and that's where typically differentiates good researchers, teachers, and so on and so forth. But I think when we talk about research especially, the fundamental skill, which I think is required in anything else also, that's why I said everybody needs to think and work like researchers. It, is again, as I repeat again, problem formulation. I noticed that in quite a few papers also here, and I pointed it out. We're good at literature review, we're good at all the tools that we use, coming up with gaps, presenting the ideas and so on. But if you have not looked at the motivation correctly and formulated the problem correctly, then the whole point about the rest of the thing goes useless. And that goes beyond research. So look at research, teaching, learning, anything and everything that you do in any role. So that's why I said, not only generative AI, when you look at in combination with other technologies, so it will help you get immersed into augmented reality, virtual reality. So you can get into scenarios which otherwise you would have just imagined, or due to practical reasons, it's not possible. So you can. So I was just talking to somebody at the Metaverse. We're setting up a Metaverse lab here on how, let's say, I'm doing a research, and that was the example quoted by Professor Vijay, I believe, who's at MICA. I hope I'm quoting the right name. Is about how if I'm doing, let's say, research on Dharavi slums, I can actually go down and see those, or anything on anywhere in a geographical area, and that's reality in metaverse. But if I'm doing something which is imaginary, and I can go into virtual reality, and that will help me formulate a problem which is probably likely to happen in the future, and then look at it that way. So I think that's one thing. Second thing, as a researcher who is guiding young students, is not just how to use these technologies, but how there are a lot of research ideas and problems which are generated among these technologies, in terms of across areas, ethics, society, across functional areas, on how these technologies will be used, and what kind of future what kind of future what will be the future of marketing, what will be the future of business, what will be the future of society, the kind of discussion we are having on, what will the society look like in 5 years. So it helps you envision that, and it's creating new research problems also, apart from helping you solve these research problems. So it's probably an exciting world for researchers. I think I don't look at it as a challenge. I think a world of opportunities there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just ask this question. Do you know what I use CHGPT for? Anybody want to pick a guess?
Ideas generation.
Okay, I use it mainly for one very important thing. CHGPT, did you write this? You know why? Whenever I read sentences from my student, it looks too real to be true. Very superficial. Doesn't sound like a human writing. So on certain parts, I will just cut and I'll ask ChatGPT, did you write this? And ChatGPT will be very honest, yes. And they will tell me which part of the sentences are actually written by them. Yeah. So to me, it's a way for me to, somehow, okay, so this student used ChatGPT to write this part of the essay. Of course, I don't take the entire essay, but just on certain parts, because I'm also worried and I'm very mindful that whatever that has been, key in ChatGPT, for example, will be stored online. And I do not want it later to have some issues with similarity. So to me, I use that as a form of like a way to check whether students use GAI to write and so on. Now, to me, my principal stance is in this way. it's okay to use GAI to generate ideas, to understand about something. Because sometimes when I, for example, as a researcher, I write theories, and there are some theories which are really very difficult for me to actually understand. So I use ChatGPT, for example, to ask them to summarize, and maybe sometimes I even ask this very simple question, assuming I have this kind of models. How do you think it's related to this theory? And I want to see how they can explain that integration. So I use that to actually help me to understand my research better. Okay, and I told this to all my students as well. No problem, you use that because I do that as well. Okay, but never ever put your stuff, your writing to ChatGPT, and to ask them to help you to write certain sections and so on. Because a lot of the writings are, again, as I say, it's superficial. It doesn't look real at all. Okay, and it's really easy to spot this. Now, the issue comes in this way. I began to see, of course, when you talk about, generative AI, to me it's really an opportunity. But to me now it looks like it's going to be something challenging as well. Because as I always say, when I talk about originality, it's really about your writing, your thoughts, your clarity of your thoughts, how you put your thoughts into something so real, so real that people can, see it. But now you have AI. AI can actually do it. So to me, I find this something very challenging. I really do not know that in the future, in the coming years, how people is really, let's say for example, government starts to allow people to use AI in terms of research. Then how are we going to measure about what's the real work and what is a real quality work and what is not a real quality work? So to me, I find this something very difficult, and I ask myself, is there a line that we can draw? I don't have. That's why topics like this today, spark my thinking, like, how far should we go in using AI softwares, especially in terms of research. So don't quote me wrongly. I'm not saying that it's wrong for you to use this in research. I'm all okay if you are using it to generate ideas, to understand something better, or even to do references. Yeah, like telling them to change from APA to Chicago to Harvard. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. But in terms of writing, no. Yeah, and the issue here is that if really, some students are getting more clever, what they do, for example, they use ChatGPT, for example, or whatever software that is available online to write, okay? And in order to avoid similarity, they use Qboot. Yeah, and they ask them to rephrase everything, and when you look at it, it doesn't look like it's a robot writing, but in fact it's actually written by AI. So, in the future, how are you going to control this? I do not see an answer. Yeah, but recently what I did was, when I look at the sentences, a few of the paragraph, it looks genuine, but it sounds something fishy as well. So what I did now is that for certain sections, I will do a sort of like random check with my students, and I always tell them that, okay, all right, make sure print out all the references from this paragraph and highlight and show me why you are quoting this particular sentence. So like what my prof said, my mentor, Prof. Hui, if a student, for example, when they write this using AI, and for the first time you ask them to show the references where these are quoted and they cannot show the evidences, they will be very mindful of not using this in the future. Yeah, something for you to think about. All right, thank you.
Well, thank you, Gary. All right, so coming this, do you have anything to add?
No.
Right. So coming this far, yeah, we have discussed a lot, on how GAI is relevant to how we do or how conduct research. We talk a lot. Yeah, we talk about how like what Prof. Chang has mentioned, right? GAI helps us in terms of writing improvements, right? And also idea articulations, and also checking our student research works. So that's it is apparent that we are at an intersection. GI is good, but at the same time it creates a lot of problems. But definitely, that is not the fault of GI itself, but the persons who are using it. So personally, I would say, at this point of time, there are a lot of gray areas that we do not have an answer to it, and we are left a lot of problems, a lot of questions to be solved, and a lot of perhaps policy to be set up. So so right now, I would love to see the audience for any questions that they have for our panel today regarding GAI and how they are relevant to teachings or research. Prof. Basha?
I just wanted to ask that when we are discussing about scholarship and research primarily, how would you see the future emerging? In the sense, now we've been having a discussion at different journals and we have followed different policies. If it is AI written, it doesn't even reach the editor desk. You all know that. It's auto-rejected by the assistants. But I just wanted to understand from your perspective that what the scholarship would look like, that there would be like a co-authorship with CHGPT or some AI tool and the human and AI collaborating together, creating a content, and how authentic it would be, how credible it would be. I don't have any answers for it, but I just wanted to know your views, because this is an ongoing discussion which we are having at American Marketing Association all over the globe with all the journals, that how we are heading into those directions and giving citations and authorship to human right now, but what the future would be.
These days we see there are many articles coming up on the use of ChatGPT, generative AI, how to use for research. Yeah, so like I've seen many IS journals. They have come up with some guidelines how to use ChatGPT for research. As far as the co-authorship is concerned, I don't think this is going to happen, because then who will take responsibility? Right? Suppose you write something and then you say that this part was written by my co-author ChatGPT, not by me, right? Because nowadays we can say normally if one paper is written by 3 authors, 4 authors, and one author is presenting, and someone asks question from audience, can you explain this part? So we can simply say that this part was not written by me. Right? So, but we cannot go away by saying that this was written by ChatGPT. So this is not going to happen. I completely agree with Professor Ashwini that it is going to augment. We should take this as a tool which can help us to grow to the next level. And I'm sure ChatGPT is going to help us in big way in research. I don't know much how it is going to evolve down the line, 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, but for sure it is going to help, like computers, like simple example, calculators. Like we had limitations before calculators arrived. Now the same way ChatGPT is going to help us in a big way, and the future will unfold. We don't have, I don't know, you would like to add something?
Okay. Adding to what Prof. Sujit has just shared, right? Pertaining to the question from Prof. Washa, I remember a few years back, okay, when I started to embrace GAI in my research, I asked one simple question: what is technology acceptance model? So imagine that was like about a year plus ago, and the answer given was simple, basic. So you can see it's very surface. It's not like a thesis or a journal standard. Okay? Now, fast forward 2024. I asked the same question. What is technology acceptance model? I got shocked. Do you know why I got shocked? The quality of answers that this, that has, it is on the screen is almost on par with a researcher writing. Now, this is is the key fundamental that I always ask. Now imagine, that was only 1 year ago. Yeah, about 1.5 years ago. AI being an AI, they are learning whatever that you're inputting in online every day. Imagine how many people are using this, writing what is TAM. They are able to capture all the information. Now ask yourself this question. Let's give 2 years. I can tell you they can even write better than a professor. And they can even tell you the limitation of TAM and so on. Now, let's ask this question. In terms of research, imagine if this were to continue, what about us as an academician? Someone is going to write a paper and it's going to submit to FT50, and they are going to be better and better and better. So this is something that I always ask myself, how? So I don't know. But what I want to stress is that I realize that AI is getting smarter. The kind of answers that I received a few years back is totally different from what it is today. And I can really assure you, if this were to continue, and if companies are investing, tons of monies in, developing better algorithm and so on, they are definitely going to be better than us. It's just a matter of time they will outdo us. So, okay, so all of us will be jobless, yeah? Okay, thank you.
I would like to add a different point of view here. As I've conveyed very honestly, I'm not an editor of any journal, so probably nobody will ask me to comment on this, but I'll comment in a different perspective. So, as academicians, and as practitioners also who do research, we typically look at research and value research and incentivize research in academic institutions and probably in some corporate organization, maybe not there because that's in top level, journal, whether it's FT50 or A-star or whatever. Let's look at the context of faculty and young scholars who are present today. So that, of course, is the gold standard, and that will remain. I'm not questioning that at all. But since I talked about how being the chief questions officer is important, so I also question on what the purpose of being a teacher, an academician, or a researcher is. And I think each one of us, apart from the fact that we want to have that one or two papers or journals to make an impact, teach. And if your management research make business, the field of arts and so on and so forth. So we would want research to be rare, audience to where the impact would be, which if we aim only for those exclusive set of journals would not happen. I'm not saying don't aim for that, that's where you build your expertise, your skills, your knowledge, your problem formulation, everything gets refined, and that's the gold standard. But let's say once you've published it, and that's where I see what happening more in the future. When I say democratization of education, and so when I was using generative AI and personalized learning and immersive technologies, one thing which I feel is going to be a game changer and can be, hopefully, is democratization and education not being restricted to certain exclusive, schools and universities and so on and so forth, which is very much required. Same thing in research. So once you're democratizing education, then everybody needs to have access to not only affordable education and learning, but affordable research, because journal publications, of course, they can't help it because there are costs and all that. So they're expensive to subscribe. They're not all of them are open access journals, and they don't need to be. Ultimately, you're published in a very good journal. Now you want your research to be accessible in a practitioner-oriented, simple language to all practitioners, which is what we'd like to do. And the way we work, some of us are very good at publishing A-star journals, And then sometimes what happens, very few of us do that, collaborate with a practitioner to take that same research in a simple practitioner-oriented language, in a book or a paper or a blog article or whatever. And that's where again AI can help, that you can actually collaborate with AI and say that this is what it is. It is a one-page practitioner-oriented article which tells the problem and the way to do it in a very simple language, but it is based on that paper. And I'm sure that hopefully the editors would be happy, because it is, it will make you go back and read that paper. So it works in both ways. And then the multilingual capability of that, and then that's what you want to do, right? Create more impact in your research and ideas to go further and further. So I think dissemination is where I feel it will help a lot, and it's already happening. Social media blogs, people are putting their ideas on LinkedIn, and it's become so popular. And then you go back to the journals. I'm seeking validation.
All right, thank you. All right, so thanks, Prof. Sorry, because of the time limitations. Yeah.
One question. One question.
All right.
I'll make it brief. Yesterday we had my name is Amir Shikalgar from Symbiosis Skills and Professional University. Yesterday we had similar discussion, and we considered the possibility of technology being an entity taking a legal form. Extending the same logic, do you really foresee a possibility where CHGPT or such generative AI creating new knowledge and claiming IPR?
Okay, I will make it quick. I think it will create knowledge, but the knowledge is knowledge what we already know. Because ChatGPT is still predictive model. But still for predictive model, what it can do better is to synthesize what we already know. So that it can create knowledge, but based on what we already know. So you should think ChatGPT or AI as tools. Tools are used by person. When we have such beautiful tools, I think in the future it will drive us to focus more on the creative ideas. Before we have ChatGPT, you may do something that kind of repeat what other people already done. Then people think it's okay. But with ChatGPT, people already know that's happening. This will driving us to focus more on the critical analysis and the creative ideas.
All right, thank you. So, yeah, thank you everyone for the questions. Yeah, those are really very mind-sparkling questions. So to add this up, right? So my personal bottom line is that no matter how good generative AI is, right? I would say that they should no longer, they should never, right? They should never be, part of our co-authors, things like that, because eventually, I believe we all have to hold a very strong bottom line that research or science should and is always by human and for human. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. As a token of our gratitude, I would like to take a moment to recognize our distinguished panelists and our moderator for sharing their insights today. Their expertise and perspectives have added tremendously to our discussion and experience today. I would like to call upon the dais Professor Anita Basalingappa to felicitate Professor Min Chang. Thank you. I would like to invite Professor Shafali Gupta to felicitate Professor Sujit Sharma. I would now call Professor Shubhra Gaur to felicitate Professor Ashwani Kumar. I would like to call Professor Varsha Jain to felicitate Professor Gary Thanwe. Finally, I would like to invite Professor Ashutosh Dutt to felicitate our moderator, Dr. Eugene Ao Changshi. Professor Pooja. Let's all give one more round of applause to our moderator and the panelists. I would also like to thank the audience and team ICMC for making this session a success. We will now break for tea, post which we have a job fair or networking lounge at the MICA area. It is also my pleasure to invite you all to a live band performance and a dinner to conclude the day. Thank you.
Just staying for dinner.
How should I say?